Welcome everybody to today's LinkedIn Live. I'm so excited to be joined by Alex Ryan. For like more than 20 years now, Alex has actually been designing, developing all the training, development, organizational programs for the biggest companies in the world. We're talking the Fortune 100. And the focus is on the three things that are most important in companies: people, process, and I'm not going to say tech because it's tool stack.
It is
right?
tool stack. I would agree.
Right. So when it comes to learning solutions, organizational change, learning technology enablement, Alex and her team at Evolve Solution, they design, they develop, they implement everything you could possibly need, completely customized to your business, so that you don't just meet your objective, you go far and far above. One size doesn't fit all. And Alex, from what I've heard, she's seen pretty much everything. Alex, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you to Powtoon for hosting this. I'm really excited to be here. We have seen almost everything, either I have or somebody on my team has, and it really is true that one size does not fit all, and I'm so excited to talk about that today.
I'm going to jump into one size not fitting all, because one of the things that we're seeing across learning and development, change management, is kind of these templated formats, right? And we see templated formats coming out all the time. Hey, just follow, it's the guide to follow these 10 steps and you can knock out any change management program, right?
Or any training program or any skills development or anything. Yes, just follow this 5-step plan and you got it.
Right. So in your experience, what are the massive pitfalls that come with kind of running that templated approach?
Massive pitfalls are that truly one size does not fit all. And I'm not here to knock off-the-shelf programs or off-the-shelf templates, because they do provide a great starting point for your program, for your initiative, for your skill development, or for your organizational change. But you still need to use the language that your company is used to, the terminology that your customers are used to. You need to have the right tone, the right style. For some, whiteboarded animated characters are fantastic. That's what they love. For others, they want more photorealistic images. And for others still, they want something a little bit more conservative, more buttoned up. So you really need to be looking at your audience, who you're trying to target, understanding what's familiar to them, what's comfortable to them. So those are the biggest pitfalls with templates and kind of off the shelf, is that if it's not familiar, if it's not comfortable to those that you're trying to target, it's going to fall flat.
Right. And I think a lot of that also comes into what is your audience actually looking for. We're rolling out a change management program, right? Let's be honest. 95% of the people on the ground are mostly annoyed because they've gotten used to doing things a certain way. And now, the company is coming in and saying, the way you've always done it, we think we found a better way, and it's going to lead to a 2% improvement. And what do they say? You're going to blow up my entire working day, week, month, year for a 2% improvement. How do we go about kind of giving that value? So that people actually understand 2% is something that sits with them. How do we give them that value that they actually understand? Why should we actually buy into this? Why is this important?
Well, that's why our topic today, treating your training like a product, is so important. And, just a little side note, if your change management program or initiative is only going to result in 2% increase in value, productivity, process improvement, et cetera, chances are you need to go back to your metrics and KPIs and figure out a different way of selling it to your organization. Maybe not lead with that 2%, but the reason why it's so important is that whether you are rolling out a new training initiative, compliance training, new skill building, or a massive organizational change, you need to clearly communicate the value. And those values need to be aligned to what your audience, what your customers, or what your internal organization finds valuable, finds interest in. And it might be a different message depending on department, depending on group, depending on focus. The finance team may see, the value in automating a lot of previously manual processes, whereas the operations team just wants good information and good data and good decision-making data. So looking at your different audiences, identifying what's important to those different audiences, and then tailoring your message. Now, a word about messaging. You need to communicate what's appropriate to that audience, absolutely. But you can't just do one and done. I think especially with change management or training initiatives, they think, well, this is inevitable. We have to do this. You have to take the training. You have to implement this new tool or technology or tech stack. But in reality, they don't. They will find a way around it unless they can see the value in the program, the initiative, the training. So you need to communicate early, often, and repeat those messages. Just like any other product out there, tangible product, because what we do is mostly intangible. But any tangible product, I mean, you see ads, you see literature, you see digital materials, you see Google ads, all of these things keep it present and in front of you. There's a recognizable logo or badge. There's a tagline. There's, all these things that help you associate your values, your interests, your desires with that program. So why aren't we treating training and organizational change in the same way? Why aren't we giving it a flashy logo? Why aren't we promoting the WIFMs or what's in it for them? Why aren't we talking about those things on a regular basis, and also early and often? So early makes a big impact on people's early perceptions and whether they become resistors or early adopters. The earlier you get in front of these initiatives and start communicating the why, the how, and the impact, the earlier people are going to make their decisions about whether they're going to actually make this change and adopt this change, or, put all into this new skill building or training initiative. So that early and often, combined with good messaging and targeted messaging, I think is critical.
I absolutely agree with you. I mean, we look at things, from a marketing side, and I have the lucky role of getting to sit, in the marketing side of our organization at Visual Native and Powtoon and our new products. But I also have the wonderful job of sitting with our L&D organization, learning about them, learning from them. And one of the things that we talk about on the marketing side, and I think sometimes gets lost in the training and development program, and I think you hit on it, is being customer obsessed, right? We kind of get to that point in marketing. We are constantly customer obsessed. I have, at least 2 members of my team, if not more, who all they do is sit and talk to our clients, learn about them, learn what their needs are, their pains are. And we put all of this work in on the marketing side. And like you said, we kind of need to treat our training programs and market them in that way. But I don't necessarily know how well the learning industry is actually achieving that. Because what it seems like is we put out learning programs and the goal is to get it done, right? That's the goal from the learner side is, I've been assigned this course. I need to get it done so that my boss doesn't come down on me because his boss is coming down on him because the CHRO is going, or the CLO is going, hey, that learning program, you didn't do it yet. Your team only has a 40% completion rate. And that's why we're doing it. We're ticking the box. How do we get our L&D and our change management organizations to live that same customer obsessed lifestyle?
It's a big question, and I'll try not to boil the ocean, but I think the first thing that comes to mind when I think about being customer obsessed, and keep in mind, when we talk about customers, we're not just talking about external customers. We're talking about our internal customers, especially from an internal L&D or even an external L&D department. You need to be thinking of your customers. Who's your end audience? It doesn't matter if it's inside the organization or outside the organization. If you need to even make a change with how your customers order or sign up or how they procure your services or products, that's an external organizational change as well. So first of all, keep customer in mind as whose needs are you meeting? What audience are you addressing? I think the next piece that I think a lot of organizations are starting to learn a lot more and adopt a lot more is having a culture of learning and change, meaning you put priority on learning, on skill building, on learning as an organization as a means to growth and expansion. And having that top-down mentality of a learning and change culture where things are changing rapidly or ideally at a steady pace, where people are always sharing knowledge, learning new things, cross-skilling, upskilling, getting to, building those skills and capabilities that help to grow the organization. I think that that's key in many organizations, success, that they really adopt learning as a culture and as a value. Also, that ability and flexibility and agility around change as a value and as part of their culture, I think is critical. That being said, we still have the check the box mentality. And that starts all the way at the beginning of the Learning or Change Initiative, where they say, we just have to get this done. We just need to train X people on X skills and check that box. And like you said, we are tracking completion. We're not tracking engagement, knowledge transfer, understanding of the concepts. We are just tracking closing the loop, checking the box. Have you completed the training? And I think some more evolved learning and development and change organizations are getting that and making significant change around that. But it does really start at the beginning. Is it appropriate for training? Is it the right time for change? Do you have enough time to develop training and change communications that are engaging, include the right message, the right communication, the targeted audiences? And then are you measuring the right things? So are you measuring just check the box with compliance? That often happens. If you're doing a compliance training program, you do sometimes just need to check the box and move on. But if these are larger scale initiatives where you need to really build those skills and capabilities across the organization, take the time at the beginning, not only to brand and market your product, your training like a product, but to have enough time to develop the right modalities, the right tools, the right communications, and know when and acknowledge when training might not be an answer. And I think a great example of this is that oftentimes we in our company are approached by clients and say, hey, we've got this new technology that we're rolling out, and we just need screen shares with call outs to get people up to speed on the software. And by the way, we're going live in some arbitrary, really close date, coming up. And my first question always is, all right, so what have they heard about it? What do they know about it? Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? I immediately jump into kind of the organizational change aspect, and they're like, no, we're just going to do a quick cutover the night before. And I'm like, okay, so time out. So first of all, maybe the right modality, maybe screen shares make sense, but have you thought about things like animations where you can give them the value, the overview, the summary? Have you talked about process? Have you talked about your implementation plan, whether that's even realistic? Because we all know software develops totally on time, always, forever.
Always.
It's always ready exactly when they say it's going to be without any issues, right?
I can't think of a single product that has ever been late, especially in an internal rollout.
Exactly. So, so it comes down to learning culture, making sure that the change is timed appropriately, that there is value and impact to the training and change or organizational change, that you have a learning culture that supports that, or you've set that up for your customers where you provide them with what they need to self-enable, that it's the right format for training and communications, and that you have enough time to make sure that you're hitting the learner or your audience at that point of need.
Right. So let's say I'm rolling out a new product, right? Or you know what? I'm going to make this harder. Let's say I'm rolling out a new process. let's
Oh, it is
say this
harder.
process, right? It's so much harder. A product
So
is
much
something
harder.
you can touch, feel.
Yeah.
Right? Let's say I've been tasked with HR. I'm rolling out a new benefits package, right?
You're really giving me the tough one here, Steve.
I'm throwing you right under the bus here, right?
Please do. All right, bring it on. I can handle it.
Okay, I'm rolling out a new benefits package, right? This is something people should care about. Now, back when I lived in the US and I worked at large organizations, I can tell you I probably got an email once a quarter with the changes to your insurance program. And I'm like, I don't know, don't care, never understood it when I signed up for it, not going to understand it now.
Exactly.
That's something that people care about.
Yes.
Right? Well, or they care about it right at the moment and when they go to get that surgery and they find out their surgery.
Evil. We have to care about it, but only when we need it.
Right.
Yes.
So the question is, okay, now I'm rolling out this new process. I'm putting out, right, and like I said before, most of the time when we were rolling out, what are we doing? We're posting an update on Bob or whatever our HRIS is.
Or Slack or
Slack or our internal intranet. Every time we go with something passive like that, and chances of it actually being successful just drop
exponentially. You reduce your success rates with passive communications by, I would say, 80%.
And yet, what percentage of organizations would you say are still using primarily passive communication to roll out important organizational changes?
All right, so let's use that example of a benefits package. So health, medical, dental, all of that. So for those not in the U.S., you can kind of ignore some of the issues that we experience over here in the U.S. But, it's when you are rolling out something like that for somebody that, should care but doesn't, only needs it when they need it, only cares about it when they need it. The success rate of just email or Slack or some sort of chat board and, passive posts, it goes into the noise. It goes into the ether. I think by employing something like productizing your initiative, whether it's training, organizational change, process, etc., you're giving it the glitz, the glamour, the sparkle, even if it's all just, kind of created, because people do like to look at bright, shiny objects. They like to get their attention called to something that's different. And it could be even some of your early communications are as simple as a link to an animation that describes what's coming, or it could be a really nice HTML email that goes out. It could also be banners, notifications on websites or internal sites that don't go away unless you click them. I know that we do that sometimes on things like SharePoint and Microsoft Teams, but getting it out in front of them in a way that helps them understand the value, the purpose, the impact. And of course, with something like benefits, the types of things that you might have to do are, highlighting some of the new add-on benefits. I know in the US, we often have things like gym memberships, or I just saw a notification from our insurance company saying, for some, we have an option of Peloton membership. And so
that's cool.
Yeah, very cool. And so even, highlighting some of those things, and it could be as simple as an HTML email that has a little graphic that says, look at all of these great benefits. And, oh, by the way,
unless you're an Outlook company, I'm just going to say, if you're an Outlook company, don't send HTML emails. It's going to fall flat on its face.
I know. And we are an Outlook company, and we have made our way through some of those challenges. But yes, it could be as simple as a 2-line email with a link to an animation. It could be an internal newsletter sent through whatever, type of newsletter software you have, MailChimp, HubSpot, whatever. It could be something as simple as, believe it or not, I know this is crazy, but a mailer. a card, getting in the mail. Most people don't get things that they want in the mail these days, if they get mail at all. I know I get all of my bills over email, so I don't really check the mail all that often. But when I do, and I get something that's a postcard or something different sized, or talking about, something new and exciting, in theory, I know I get excited. And so, it's, using those tactics. Also, big, aspect to this, rewards and incentives. Using a scavenger hunt to find all the new benefits that this benefits program gives you, all the freebies, all the incentives, all the rewards, and using that as a way of rewarding people for finding information about the program and going on, a bit of a scavenger hunt. We've seen that be really successful. And we've actually used something like Powtoon, by the way, to kind of bring it back to center, to announce and promote a thing like a scavenger hunt. Like, hey, scavenger hunt's on. These are the things you need to find, and getting really excited and, on your way, and here are the rewards or prizes for those, first 5 or 10 or 20 people.
So, not to bring it back to center, around to us, but this is about
but that
knowledge.
Is kind of the reason why we're here.
It's not that I'm not marketing my product a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit, but in all seriousness, there are tons of tools that are out there, like Powtoon, and we see animated video really starting to jump up in the world of L&D, especially I think over the last 2-3 years.
Yeah.
How do you find tools like that? How much, when you're delivering that higher quality content, does it actually get the learners excited? Does it keep them engaged? Is it actually delivering the, that that impact that we're actually looking for it to deliver?
Absolutely. So whether it's Powtoon or similar tools, obviously Powtoon's one of my favorites, but similar tools to create stop motion graphics, animation, especially those short form 2-3 minute type videos, we've seen them be very impactful and increased engagement significantly. And not only in e-learning, because especially in e-learning programs where if we can start a lesson or a module with an animation to give them that light, interesting, engaging thing to kind of set the stage, get them excited, pull them in, and then, use other modalities to, provide them with the knowledge transfers we need to. Very successful. Also, those videos have been super successful, not only in the e-learning, but also in video playlists, searchable video playlists where somebody's like, hey, I need to know about XYZ. You search for it, pops up, whether it's on Vimeo or any other, video sharing. It's been very successful and very engaging because it's so flexible. You have something that you create that's hyper-targeted to that topic, that audience, and then it gets used in SharePoint, in video playlists, in an e-learning, linked out from an email communication. It just has that flexibility to engage people in whatever medium or how they want to be communicated to. Not everybody wants to go through an entire e-learning. They just want a drip campaign of, and we use those in learning too, not just in marketing, where they just want an email.
You're speaking my language.
No, I know. They want on a daily basis or maybe, a couple times a week over the course of that training program, an email or a Slack message that says, hey, here's today's lesson. You click on it, you go to a video, or you go to a web page that has a video. And that's, they have 5 minutes. So they're going to learn something new in that 5 minutes, as opposed to going to the LMS, logging in, clicking on the e-learning, going through a long form e-learning, which some people still really want to do. And we do need that, especially for some topics. But I just think that the flexibility and agility of those types of formats is just so important and increases the engagement because it's meeting the learner where they are at the point of need and in a time frame that makes sense for them.
Yeah, and I think, that absolutely makes sense, right? Kind of the way you're talking about it is we're approaching it as if it's our product. This is
Yes.
what we're pushing. We're
Uh-huh.
pushing out, which is exactly where we should be pushing
Uh-huh.
our learning and development programs,
Uh-huh.
because they are products.
Yes.
Now, so you do a ton of work, obviously, in the industry,
Uh-huh.
right? I would venture to say that probably, and correct me if I'm wrong here, the last 2 to 3 years, beyond COVID and everything,
Uh-huh.
even put that to the side, even in the year before COVID, L&D instructional design probably saw the biggest evolution, right?
Yes.
That we've seen
You
over the
think
last
just a little bit?
just a little bit,
In the
right?
last, I would say 3 to 4 years, we have seen a massive evolution in L&D, all for the better, as far as I'm concerned. Prior to COVID, yes, we were still doing probably a 50-50 split of instructor-led or virtual instructor-led and e-learning. E-learning was more of that I have to go. Instructor-led was more of the I get to go, but am I really, absorbing anything while I'm there? And now and this is partly due to the learning tech space too. It's exploded. I mean, the tools and technology that are available across the learning tech space are just amazing. It's part of the reason why we go to so many conferences to find all the new tech and everything, and keep up to date on what's available, because we now have tools available to any L&D department, whether you're a department of one or a large, decentralized L&D department of a massive company. You now have access to tools and technology to create these types of things with little to no custom training. I mean, we're not talking about the Adobe Creative Suites of the world, the people that are just experts in all of those tools. We're talking about a tool that you can get some basic training on. You can jump in, start playing around, and create with good instructional design and organizational change. Like, as long as you've got the learning and development skills and mindset and instructional design experience, you can jump into these tools and create micro learning all the way to long form e-learning in a format and in modalities that meet our modern learner, that meet them where they need it. And really across topics. I mean, everything from some of the most serious compliance-based topics like safety and IT, security, diversity, equity, inclusion. These are pretty serious topics that you can then add a bit of levity, a bit of excitement, a bit of engagement to using some of these tools and technology that are available to us. So yes, L&D is such a different world today than it was even 2 years ago, and light years beyond where we were even 5 years ago.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean,
Okay.
I think the only piece where, where we're kind of seeing, a little bit of failure on the technology side is we're still reliant on SCORM and SCORM only for things to work. So nothing really works nicely together.
Yeah.
Hey, people who are watching,
that SCORM
one
discussion
second.
is a big one.
Ready for this, Alex? For people who have watched our LinkedIn Lives before, I have never, ever, ever seeded a large announcement that may or may not be coming.
Good to know, because that's actually, it's interesting you bring this up. And yeah, we could have a whole hour-long discussion on SCORM and don't want to go there because it's contentious, of course. But one of the biggest issues we're dealing with some of our clients right now is being able to track completion of videos. And in order to do that with typical L&D departments is you need to put it in a SCORM wrapper, whether it's in Articulate or Captivate or other, and load it to an LMS. And that's not really scalable, feasible, and still creates those barriers for learners where they're going to have to go to the LMS, log in, remember their login, search for the course, search for that video, and then, hopefully they still, are engaged and want to get there. And actually,
well, you're missing the worst part. 1 second. You missed the worst part of the whole thing. Now I found the course. I found my written content. What do? Scroll to the bottom. Start quiz.
Exactly. Yep. Because that's what they're going to do. They're not going to learn anything new. They're going to go straight to testing out. And that is the worst part of it. And so I I agree with you completely that we are so reliant on SCORM and using that for completion and tracking. And that's just not how the modern learner engages with content anymore. It's just not.
Which brings us right into Macy's question, which Macy, I think you hit it. So this is what she wrote. When you're targeting a larger audience, how do you determine where/how to meet them where they are? It feels often that our audience is in such different places, it's hard to determine the best space to capture their engagement.
That's a great question. And it's the simplest answer is everywhere. So if you have Slack and email and SharePoint and internal intranets or some sort of internal web page, internal communities, LMS, you hit them all. That's the simplest answer. Because it used to be that, like we talked about at the beginning, you email it out and people either ignore it or they engage with it. And, you kind of hope for 20, 30% engagement rate. That was kind of that was like the holy grail at the time. Now because we have a multi-generational workforce, because we have so many tools and technology that are good for different types of groups or business units or different types of customers, you really need to hit it everywhere. It needs to be anywhere where your audience is going to be. That is where you need to hit it. And it does include the old school email versions. It does include things like chat boards. And also, for some companies who have like social media within their organization where they have social media boards or communities, hitting communities as well. But also it comes down to even making sure that the more traditional learner, which isn't necessarily generational based, still can access it the way that they always have before.
In marketing, we kind of look at it, maybe I'm knocking at them everywhere, right? So we have what we call different messages for different channels and appropriate messages for certain channels. So for example, if I'm marketing a product, what I'm going to put out on TikTok is going to be highly different than what I'm going to put out on television, than what I'm going to put into a print ad, because the audience is different, the people I'm speaking to are different, everyone is different.
Absolutely.
So from the marketing perspective, if you're looking to say, I have to meet people where they're at, you also have to communicate with them where they are at.
Correct.
So one of the great examples, I used to work at a company called WalkMe. Those of you who may be familiar, if you work in the change management or digital adoption space, but more importantly, what WalkMe was great at, we had our internal Slack, we had our internal channels, our employee intranet, which I think maybe 2 people logged on in the entire lifetime of the intranet.
Do they even exist anymore? Kind of do.
I'm fairly certain they don't even work there
anymore.
Yeah. But what they were great at is we had a Facebook group called Life at WalkMe, and we had an Instagram account called Life at WalkMe. But what the internal branding team, the internal marketing team, right? Not our external marketing, the internal marketing team. Not that the external marketing team wasn't fantastic. They really, really were. But what the internal marketing team was really, really great at, the content that was put out on the Facebook group, Life at WalkMe, was completely, totally different. It was much more conversational. It was much more, hey, it's nearly lunchtime. What new restaurants are we trying at the air? Are we trying at?
It was more of a conversation stream or a thread of discussions.
Right.
And I think you bring up a good point that if you do have company Facebook groups or Instagram, absolutely target your message. But it still goes back to you need to, at the beginning, define what those key messages are, and then define all of the places that you're going to be using that messaging and tailor the message accordingly. What you send in an email is very different than what you're going to post on Slack, and it's very different than what you would text in a text message. That was one of the other modalities that I forgot about. There's great tools out there that allow you to text a code or text a search term into their company, instance of this text messaging, And then it will provide you with a link to knowledge-based articles, troubleshooting, all of those things. We have also seen great success with texting out links to videos and even deep links into the LMS by way of text. Because as we know, there are many of us. I am one of them, absolutely. What do we all have in our hand at all times when we're not doing a LinkedIn Live? We've got
my AirPod case.
Well, we've got a cell phone, though, or we've got our tablet. We've got some sort of device with us at all times. And we are trained now in this modern world that we live in to immediately look at our phones when we get that ping or when we get that ding. And so even looking at ways that you can meet them on mobile devices, whether it's through text messages, even mobile apps and alerts through a mobile app, we've seen great success with some of our food service clients where we've developed apps for things like recipes, product cleaning, or product maintenance, equipment cleaning, where they can look on the app and then click on something and they immediately have the procedure or the process or a short video to demonstrate what they need to do. And so, really looking at not only the key messages and the value proposition, which is true with training and organizational change just as much as it is with marketing and sales, but it's also tailoring that message, not just to the audience, but to the modality that you're delivering it, whether it's email or any of the other 100 other texts that we use to communicate these days.
Yeah, no. And by the way, anyone who's listening, if you have more questions, feel free to pop them in. I want to give a special kudos and shout out to Macy on the HubSpot team. I have one of the members on my team who is our HubSpot specialist, who is a voracious learner. I think I'm seeing him post on LinkedIn a new HubSpot certification that's coming out of the HubSpot Academy once a week, once every other week. Yeah. So super kudos and shout out to you guys because you've actually found a value that your audience really wants to get into. They really want to dive in, sink their teeth in, and you're actually getting it there. And what I think what's really great is that they're then able to share it out afterwards. I've seen PwC do this as well.
Yep.
Specifically for their human-oriented design or something like that. There was a point where they pushed this out, and I think every single person that I'm connected to on LinkedIn who worked at PwC within the span of a month posted this badge. And I think that's a massive part of the engagement that you're going to get. People are actually proud
of their accomplishments, and rightly so.
Exactly.
And recognizing those accomplishments, badging them, rewarding them for those accomplishments is a huge factor. It's a huge motivator for people to jump in and take the training. But that also, Steve, goes back to having a culture within your organization that is a learning culture where you support building skills and, adding certifications and building your knowledge in areas and giving them the time to do it. Because if they're feeling like I have to do this and it's taking away from my job and my boss is going to be upset because I didn't get half my job done today because I have to go to the training, that's not supporting learning. That's not building a learning culture. That's, basically making it a requirement and checking a box. So having that learning culture, supporting training and skill building in your organization, making it a priority, and helping your organization grow and scale so that you can better meet your external customers' needs is really where learning and change is kind of right at the center.
Alex, you ready for one more question?
I'm ready for one more question.
When your large company is targeting training for a specific persona, how do you specify the message to get the right people into the session?
That's always a tricky one, and that comes down to good old-fashioned change communications and good communication at the right time. You really have to, again, make sure you've got the right message for that audience group. You've got the value proposition or what we call the WIFMs, what's in it for them, clearly front and center. Keep the message short and sweet and make sure that you are telling them what they are going to gain from that. I think whether it's badging and rewards and incentivizing it so that people can see the recognition from it, or it's, talking about metrics. It's going to, reduce your overhead by 40%. It's going to reduce your costs by X percent. I think giving them those tangible numbers of how it's going to benefit their daily lives or improve the way that they're working, I think is the number one thing. But getting it in front of them, again, goes back to find at least, 3 or 4 different ways that people are engaging with content for that group and get it there in a customized fashion for that piece.
Yeah, I'm going to add on to that. If you have a specific audience that you're looking for, develop a champion within that audience. If you're trying to speak to the sales team, don't go to the VP sales, right?
Yeah.
Don't even go to a sales manager. Go to an account exec. If you're trying to talk to your HR team, go to an HR VP, go to a lower level person, get them involved.
HR business partner, or we call them change champions. And one company actually is calling them change ninjas. I'm still on the fence about how I feel about that, but
I don't want them to be picky.
Absolutely, Steve. I agree with you. Finding those early adopters, those champions, those that are already on board, getting them to be your evangelist about the product, about the initiative, to be talking it up. And you're right, it's not the VP level. It's not even really the director level. We're talking on the ground, boots on the ground folks in groups where they're the ones who are actually doing the work. And if you can get a champion in one of those areas and have them help you make the case for change.
No, absolutely. If you're interested in hearing more, we are constantly developing new tools. We're constantly developing new features. We are going to have big announcements coming this year. Again, wink, I'm not allowed to say more than I actually have. If you're interested in learning more about the new tools we have coming out, things that will make your life a lot easier, will bring everything together into one place, your content creation, your course creation, all of that, down all the way through. If you're interested in learning more about that, tell Katie, tell Josh, tell Elon. They will put you in touch with the right people. I'm pretty certain that Alex is going to make me show this to her after our LinkedIn Live anyway, so we're going to do that also. But
yeah, I'm
Alex, thank you so much.
Products, new tools, okay.
Alex, I will jump on a Zoom with you literally right after this, but thank you so much for joining us today. This has been awesome. I've gone completely off the rails more than I normally do.
I think we both
did, this was fantastic.
And it's all good. I think just use the tools that are out there. There's so many tools available now. And, it's basically become you know what you're doing. You just need the right tools. There's just so many out there that allow you to get good messaging, good content, and good information out there. So I'm really excited that I got to join you here today, Steve. We totally went off the rails. Totally okay. I love it. We've talked about a lot of things, and I can't wait to hear about what's coming next.